gentlemen, welcome to the Public Service Commission meeting of January 31st, 2019. Before we get started on the agenda, we have some service announcements. We have in recognition of 25 years of service with the state of Delaware, Gerald Platt. I thought he was here. She wants to go last.
What, they get framed now?
Oh, yeah. Fins and. Yeah. 15, in recognition of 15 years of service with the state of Delaware, Shauna Marshall.
Oh, there he is. He's not into that.
Thank you very much. And this is Gerald Platt with his 25 years. And Mark Lawrence has 10 years, but he is not here today. And we have one that has 20 years, and it's Donna Nickerson. Thank you all. All right, we have the minutes of the public meeting of January 15th, 2019. Are there any changes, additions, or corrections to those minutes?
I move that we adopt the minutes of January 15th.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We also have the minutes of the executive session of the same date. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Madam Chair, I move that the minutes of the executive session be adopted as submitted.
I second it.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We have the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone have any reason to move anything off of that consent agenda or to question those?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda is adopted. And now we are on to the regular agenda. The first item is the matter of the petition of Artesian Water Company for approval of a new interconnection rate with the town of Selbyville. And I believe we have,
Dave Spake from Artesian Water,
and do we have Scott?
and Scott Steffen from
Okay.
Artesian. Good afternoon. This is our application for an interconnection rate with the town of Selbyville. We've completed an interconnection. It'll be a metered connection that'll flow both ways. So this would approve a rate that is both a purchase and a sell. The interconnection is beneficial to both companies and the town. It's a water quality issue primarily, both for Selbyville and for ourselves. For ourselves, it's a THM issue, which really has to do with how long water stays in a main. So this will keep water flowing from our side. From their side, they have hydraulic issues on the eastern side of their town, so we're able to supply water in an area where they have fire flow issues, et cetera, where they have a lot of growth. So again, we've read the staff's memo, agree with their memo, and agree with the order as proposed. So we urge your approval of that order.
Thank you much. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair and Commissioners. As staff reviewed the petition attachments, the agreement is as Mr. Spake recited, and we believe this is beneficial to both Artesian and the town, and it maintains the approved rate of return, PSC-approved rate of return. And with that, we would support the Commission's approval of proposed Order 9333.
Thank you very much. Ms. Iori?
We have nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners?
Yes, one question, Madam Chair. On the staff's memo, page 2, where it's pointed out that the additional revenues are $63,900, and that the offsetting annual depreciation and taxes, how do they, I can't reconcile how those numbers fit. And I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but I'll just ask Mr. Spate, you've looked at those reconciliations and agree that the offsetting will affect the rate of return as is stated?
We agree with the calculations. You know, there's expenses, there's taxes associated with it. At the end of the day, it's a pretty minimal change to the company's overall net income and rate of return. Doesn't move the dial.
Okay, very good. No further questions, then, Madam Chair.
You have questions?
No, I don't know.
All right, if there are no further questions, may I have action on the order?
Making a motion to approve proposed order number 9333 as
I
presented.
second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you both. The second item on the agenda is the matter of the petition of the Delaware Division of the Public Advocate to reduce the rates of regulated utilities as a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017's reduction in corporate income taxes and other tax changes. Ms. Iori, do you want to lead us off on that?
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. I don't know how you want to do these. All but one of them are uncontested. I don't know if anyone is here from Sussex Shores. They are the only one who we did not get an agreed form of order with. And I see they cared enough to show up.
That's the impact. Sorry.
I don't know. Well, let's start with everybody but Sussex Shores. How's that? We did, I thank Connie McDowell for doing all the calculations. As we all know, math is not my strong suit. That's why I'm a lawyer. We have reached agreement with all of the other utilities with respect to the amounts to be refunded to ratepayers and the excess deferred income tax and how that will be refunded to ratepayers and the length of time and all of that. As you know, we took care of Delmarva's in their rate cases. So with respect to Artesian, Long Neck, Suez, Chesapeake, Tidewater, all of those are agreed orders. And so we would ask that that the commission approve them as submitted. Broadkiln Beach is kind of a different sort of animal. They are I think it's an S corporation, and so they are, it's a flow-through, and so basically there's nothing to return. And so that is also an agreed-upon order, and we would ask that you approve that as submitted. With respect to Inland Bay and Artesian Wastewater Management, there was no income tax included in their revenue requirements in their most recent rate cases. Therefore, since they aren't collecting any income tax, there is nothing to return. So those orders are also agreed, and we would ask that you approve them as submitted. The Sussex Shores, while they don't disagree with Ms. McDowell's calculations, their position is that they should not have to refund anything to consumers or their customers because they're not earning their authorized rate of return. We have a few responses to that, one of which is that if you look at their quarterly rate of return reports over the last 3 years, there have been times when they have been over-earning, and we didn't hear them talk about that. The second part of that, though, is the last rate case that Sussex Shores had was in 2008. That was, resulted in a settlement, and it was a black box settlement. And in this particular black box, unlike most of those settlements that come before the commission, there was no stated authorized return on equity or stated overall rate of return. So apparently, what's happening with this is that they're going back to the rate case before that, which was 1999, 20 years ago. And in that case, the commission authorized a 10.5 return on equity and an overall rate of return of 9.01%. I dare say that if Sussex Shores were to come before you now, they would not be getting a 10.5 return on equity, and so their overall rate of return would also be lower. I also note that they have a very high cost of debt relative to what the other utilities, particularly the water utilities, have. And again, if they were in for a rate case, that would be reduced as well. So it is our position that the fact, and I would not even concede that it's a fact, that they may be under-earning under their calculations is not a sufficient reason for the commission to flow back the reduction in tax revenues, or what they are receiving from ratepayers and their revenue requirement for federal income tax back to the ratepayers. And so we would ask that you approve the proposed form of order there, which indicates that Sussex Shores disagrees that it should have to send any, give anything back to ratepayers, but authorizes or orders them to give back to ratepayers. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair and Commissioners. I can't add anything to Ms. Iori's very detailed recitation of the facts and our review. And for those same reasons, we believe that Order 9334 should be approved. The table spells out the reduction amounts, and we believe that it's proper that they
All right,
return
I
the.
believe that's 9331.
3-1, I'm sorry. That they also return the portion of regulatory asset by way of billing credits for the period specified therein.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from any of the water companies who would like to speak? Mr. Stefan?
I mean, we're comfortable with the agreement. We've reviewed it, worked closely with staff and BPA, have no issues. Wasn't sure how we were going to handle this, so I didn't go back to my seat. So we are comfortable with everything.
Do any of the commissioners have questions? Mr. Walsh, do you want us to take these one at a time, or?
I think that should be a proper method.
Okay.
So, Madam Acting Chair, I'll start. First, I want to comment and thank everybody who went through the excruciating process of calculating and quantifying what these numbers needed to look like. I want to thank the utilities for agreeing with I think, the guidance of the commission that the ratepayer should benefit as a consequence of the tax reduction. So I'll start this process by submitting or making a motion that the commission adopt order number 9317 as submitted.
And I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I move that we adopt order number 9318.
And I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Move we approve order number 9319 as
I
presented.
second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the commission adopt order number 9330 as submitted.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I
Motion,
move, yeah.
okay,
Right, sorry.
that's all right.
I move that we adopt order number 9331.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that we adopt order number 9332.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that we adopt order number 9334.
I second it.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that we adopt order number 9335 as submitted.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would just note that we are still working on the calculations for Tidewater Environmental Services, Inc., the wastewater company that Tidewater has. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, we will bring an agreed order to the Commission for approval.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, before we move completely off this topic, I'd like to ask our executive director if he can see if one of the staff members could tally up the total remittance to the ratepayers. And this is an anniversary year for the commission. Might be a really nice article in some public media to inform the public the work and services that's taken place around this issue.
Commissioner Gray, if you'll allow me, I'll give you the answer right now if you want it.
Well, the answer will be of interest, but also the other steps would be of interest as well.
And I'm looking at Sam. Get ready with the article, please. Fill in the blanks from Drew and Kevin's team, Kevin Nielsen's team. Would you? We will have it for you.
Do you have figures?
Oh, sure. All right. Sorry.
Subject to check,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, right. Subject to check.
No, he can do that.
I just asked Connie to put it together. I'm very good at creating Excel tables. So once again, I'll thank Connie. So Artesians, the overall reduction, this is the average usage for a residential customer, is $2.35 per bill. Yearly, that's $28.20. Long neck is $2.04 per bill, or $24.48 per year. Suez is $1.71, or $20.52 a year. Chesapeake is $1.52, or $18.20 a year. Sussex Shores is $1.71 per bill, or $6.84 per year, as they're billed quarterly. Tidewater is $8.17 per bill, or $32.68 billed per year, which is billed quarterly.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Item number 3 on the regular agenda is in the matter of the request for proposals and the review and approval of any proposed contracts for the purchase and wind-generated renewable energy credits by Delmarva Power and Light Company. Mr. Gooden,
Sorry, I was not paying attention.
at least you admitted it.
Wait for Gina to say what else is new.
second of 3 RFPs that Delmarva Power agreed to conduct as part of the settlement of the Exxon PHI Delmarva merger. Real quickly, we conducted the first one. Winning bidder came in, selected, known as a very strong company. We spent quite some time negotiating the actual contract, and much to our disappointment, the last minute, they were not able to get approval from their foreign parent, which we were very disappointed about. But in any event, that's life. So we then did our second of 3 tranches that we're required to do, and got a clear winning bidder, even stronger, more respected company. They were an absolute pleasure to work with, and we're excited to bring that before you now. We're asking just to be treated much as the past power purchase agreements, even though it's just Rex, that we've asked you to review, in that we take it directly to the commissioners rather than have a hearing in front of the hearing examiner. 2 reasons for that. One, saves quite a bit of time and money for our customers, because those costs go directly into our PS rate that they pay. And so you've done that on each occasion in the past for us, and we've always greatly appreciated that. And had really wonderful cooperation from staff and EPA in getting these things done, such that it doesn't add extra costs. So with that, that's our request before you. I want to make a quick apology to Mr. Walsh, because I should have caught this. If you look at page 5, first paragraph of the order, it would require us to have the form of notice published in the News Journal and the Delaware State News on February 5th. We have struggled quite a bit with the News Journal. They now want a full week notice, so we just can't. I was hoping maybe we could just push that to, sorry, I had a date and my phone shut off. Let me get back. So, we could get it to them if approved today. Someone just texted me, please speak into the mic. I don't know who it was. But thank you. We could easily get it to them if approved today, tomorrow, and that should hopefully, allow us to get it in by, a week on the 8th. So if we could maybe just put the 8th, 4 days, I think that still provides plenty of time for members of the public who want to get involved. But again, I apologize for that, Tom. I should have caught that before.
That's okay. If I may just interject, if it is the 8th, that will still allow the 20 days as required to meet the March 5th evidentiary hearing, so I don't think that should be an issue.
I appreciate that, if your honors and the DPA are okay with it.
Thank you much.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Acting Chair, we will
Yes.
need to, of course, revise the order for signatures because there is, of course, the attached public
Yeah.
notice. That'll need to be changed as well.
Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Walsh?
I don't believe so. I'd be happy to circulate that revision to Mr. Goodman and DPA, of course, just make sure everybody's in agreement with those revisions, and then order could be approved as revised with those minor revisions.
Okay. Ms. Iori?
That's acceptable to the DPA.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay. Do you want us to go ahead and adopt as corrected?
May I? May
Where
I?
do we have it?
What we just quickly thought is, if you vote on it right now as amended, while you're in executive session, one of the staff members will go and change that date and then have it ready for your signatures before the meeting is over. So, is that okay?
I move that we adopt proposed order number 9336 as amended.
I second it.
Any questions on the motion?
Just clarification, how many dates will change? You mentioned in the public notice and on the order. Which dates are changing?
The February 5th publication notice, so the date on which Delmarva, let me find the ordering paragraph, is to, well, the first ordering paragraph states that they shall publish it in the News Journal, Delaware State News on February 5th. That will be changed to the 8th. And the preceding whereas clause, of course, states February 5th, and that should be February 8th.
And do the March dates in the public notice change, or they're the same?
They will, that evidentiary hearing date of March 5th will remain.
It's the time to respond,
Okay.
right? We give them an extension for those who want to, just give them the same amount of notice. That's what I believe. Is that what you're thinking, Tom?
Public comment and intervention.
Yes,
So the public notice will change which dates to what?
it changes
15.
this intervention because they're both on the same, looking for the right page here, I have so many. Okay. So that could be, if the other, and I'm looking at the public notice on page 2, for the deadline for filing written comments, objections, as well as the petitions to intervene, they're both due on or before February 15th. We can move that the same
We should, yeah.
3 days. Is that,
We'll go from
would that land on a,
February 15th, if I could just interject, is a Friday.
oh, okay.
And it might be sufficient if we just allow Monday, the 18th. I mean, that would give parties,
Yeah.
a weekend, a day, so.
To the 18th, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
If that's-
noticed that the two lawyers couldn't figure it out, but Pam, so
If that's amenable to everyone.
Pam got it. She saved us.
I added the 3.
All right, Madam Chair, no further questions on the motion.
Okay, any of the other commissioners? All right, being there are no further questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, and I again apologize for that inconvenience.
All right. Fourth item on the agenda is the matter of provision of standard offer supply to retail consumers in the service territory of Delmarva Power and Light. We have Pam Knotts and Dr. Ledzelter and Gina, I believe.
Good afternoon, Madam Acting Chair Conway and Commissioners. This past Monday, Delmarva held their second tranche for the standard offer service for the delivery year on June 1st. Excuse me, for the delivery year June 1st, 2019. I have with me, as you recall, Dr. Ledzelter from Liberty Consulting, who is your technical monitoring consultant for the standard offer service. He'll present the findings in public, the general findings and the market conditions, and then if you so choose, as we've done in the past, I offer you to go into executive session, and then we can review the specifics of the bids and the bidders. Once you come out of executive session, then you can make your approval or not approve the tranche. So,
All right, thank you.
Jim?
Dr. Ledzelter?
Good afternoon, Acting Chairman Conway and Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I am reporting on the results of this past Monday's auctions run by PHI for Delmarva Power and Light's standard offer service procurement. And overall, if we can get the presentation up, we'll speak to that actually. Okay, thanks. Can you go to the first page? Thank you. Overall, the auctions were well-run and resulted in competitive participation, and there was adequate participation and bid activity. And it resulted in prices that were consistent with market conditions. Overall, PHI does a really good job in terms of their procurement process, and the platform that they use, which is run by a company called NLX, continues to run flawlessly in this capacity. Next slide, please. Liberty performed its usual functions that we've been doing for, I believe this is our 7th year, and that is reviewing materials and communications with bidders, reviewing bidder website access, monitoring bidder eligibility, confirming NLX's fees, developing power market assessments and setting opening prices, and monitoring and confirming results from the auctions. Next slide. As an overview, there were 6 blocks totaling 278 megawatts. There were 5 risky residential, small commercial, industrial blocks. One was for a 12-month delivery period, and the other 4 were for a 24-month delivery period. And then there was one block, which is also a 12-month delivery period, as usual, for medium general service, or MGS. Next slide. At this point, I wanted to go back and explain what's going on from a historical and present and future perspective in terms of the contract terms. As you know, traditionally, Delmarva's risky class has used a 3-year, 36-month contract term, and then decided to move from 2020 delivery and beyond to a 2-year period. So that required that in 2018, all of the blocks that you'll see were for a 12-month period. And then the 2019 procurement that you see there with the green line, it shows that there was a combination of 12 and 24-month blocks, and that's what we experienced for this year's procurement. And next year and beyond, until there's some other change perhaps, everything for risky will be 24 months in length. Next slide. So overall participation was good. It was the same as last year and a little bit better than we experienced in Tranche 1. As far as bid activity, it was mixed relative to last year's Tranche 2. There were slightly more bids for risky 12-month, and there were fewer bids for MGS. We have nothing to compare to for risky's 24-month product because they didn't have that last year. But it's worth noting that even though there were fewer bids, there's a good reason for that. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what that is because that can only be explained in the confidential session. Even without naming names, if I explain the bidding behavior that caused this, it would probably breach the spirit of the confidentiality agreement. Next slide. Can you move the slide forward, please? Thank you. So on to the market assessment. Our role is to work with NLX to assess current power market conditions with the goal of finding out if there are any adverse market conditions, to establish opening prices for the auctions, and then to review their estimate of the range of expected winning prices for each block. We concluded that there were no adverse market conditions, and the auctions should proceed. Next slide. The next 3 slides take a look at energy markets from the wholesale level. And to take a look at this slide, you'll see that the PJM Western Hub energy forward prices are higher than last year's Tranche 2 by 5.4%. They're slightly higher than this year's Tranche 1, only 0.2% higher. These increases in energy only serve to modestly offset what you will see as major decreases in the capacity market. Next slide. The gas market is still historically low, yet it peaked up since last year's Tranche 2 and this year's Tranche 1. The increased gas prices are consistent with the higher energy prices that I showed in the previous slide. Next. PJM prices are consistent with the Dominion Hub gas prices that are forecast. I like to show gas versus energy on the same chart to show how they track each other. And note that the power prices in red peak up in the winter periods more so than do the gas prices. And that's not only because as gas goes up in price, the units that are dispatched and set the market clearing price, the last units dispatched, are less efficient and more costly. So you end up seeing the impact on energy price of being not just the gas price, but the inefficiency of the units being used. And that's in every market. It's standard behavior. Okay. Next slide. I mentioned capacity prices were good. So in 2019, all of the blocks reflect prices from the 2019 and 20 capacity price delivery period. Risky 24-month blocks also reflect the 2020 and 21 prices, and both are much lower than the 2018 and 19 prices that you see in the bar on the left. So from the bar on the left, which was $219 per megawatt day, it went from there to $116, a drop of 47%. And then it went up for 2020-21 to 176, which is still 33 or 20% below the 2018 and 19 period. All of that means that prices are lower from the capacity standpoint. Next slide. So our conclusions are that market conditions were good for an auction, so we proceeded. And the auctions were well run and accomplished according to the requirements of the RFP, and the system continued to perform flawlessly and produce results as expected. And finally, the auctions were competitive, and they resulted in prices that were consistent with market conditions. The last thing we do here is to recommend approving the winning bids that you will see in the confidential session. So that concludes the public version of my presentation, and I'm glad to entertain any questions.
Actually, Jim, I'm sorry. Rhonda, could you please put that back up? There's a slide that we would just like for you to explain a little bit more on that. It's towards the front, just if you could.
No, back,
explain.
back. No, back up. That, run at, slow. One more. There, stop there. Commissioners, may I ask a clarification question, if you don't mind? Just want to clarify, this happened last time too. Is that 4 blocks times 48.6, or is that 4 blocks totaling 48.6?
That is 4 blocks, each of 48.6.
So it would be about somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 megawatts.
270, oh yes,
No.
right, 196. It was
Right.
278 total.
Total, right. So that second line should actually total up to 196 something.
Yes, that's
Just
correct.
want to clarify.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Good question, and I'll clarify that next time.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Ms. Irie? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go into executive session. The commission may convene an executive session under 29 Delaware Code subsection 10004B6 for the purpose of discussing trade secrets and commercial or financial information of a privileged or confidential nature related to standard offer supply procurement of wholesale electric supply. This information is not a matter of public record as defined in 29 Delaware Code subsection 10002, 1 and 2.
Madam Chair, I move that the commission go into executive session to receive information of a privileged or confidential nature related to standard offer supply procurement of wholesale electric supply.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?